right, good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening. Welcome to the National Jazz Museum in Harlem. My name is Ryan. I work here in the programming department on behalf of our executive director, Tracy Hyder-Suffern, and our artistic team of Christian McBride and John Batiste. We welcome you here to the museum tonight. How many of you is it your first time? Wonderful. Thank you very much. We know it's a beautiful day. We know it's New York City. There's a million and one things to do. You took a chance. You came here. Welcome to the Jazz Museum in Harlem family. We consider this an introduction, and we'll certainly be inviting you back for more in the future. Those of you who considered or did make a donation, either online or when you came in, we appreciate it. The National Jazz Museum in Harlem presents almost 200 public programs a year. Almost every single one of those is free. And they're free because we do a lot of work fundraising. We apply for grants. We appeal to our individual members and our community to support the idea that this place should exist, to preserve, promote, and present jazz. And we bring the Jazz in Harlem's experience not only here in the museum, but around the city and around the world. So if you did make a donation, it goes to a very good place. It goes to employing musicians. In an average year, we employ over 1,000 musicians in various capacities. And it also goes towards education. We see about 200 school groups a year that come here for field trips. They experience our in-school programs, our assembly programs, and our live music. One thing to put on your calendar, coming up, our biggest event of the year is our Juneteenth Black Music and Dance Festival. Historically, it's been at Jackie Robinson Park. We were invited this year to move over to Marcus Garvey Park. So it's going to be in the big amphitheater, and we're really excited about that. June 22nd. It's a Saturday from 4 to 8. We haven't announced the artist, but would you like an early tip about who's going to be performing? Yeah. I can give you a little bit of a hint. So this spring we launched a project called the National Jazz Museum in Harlem House Band. It's a band. It's several bands actually, but we engaged a few of the band leaders that are really important in Harlem and represent the music in a particular way. Christopher McBride, a great saxophone player, Tahira Clayton, an outstanding vocalist, each run a version of the house band. And we're going to be officially, although they're already out there working on behalf of the museum, we're going to be officially rolling that band out as part of the Juneteenth Black Music and Dance Festival. So they will be performing. One other little hint, and then I'm going to save the other one for the press release. But Will Calhoun, the percussionist, drummer, band leader in Living Color, and all the projects that he's done. He's bringing an Afrofuturist project at June 22nd on a Saturday, 4 to 8. It's free, Marcus Garvey Park. We're really excited for that. So thank you guys very much for coming out. This partnership with the Zuckerman Institute over at Columbia University is one of our longest running partnerships. We take a lot of pride, and we're really, just so lucky to have a partner like Zuckerman, because these ideas are cultivated and curated, and they have such amazing people there with such vast knowledge that we're able to connect the dots between how the brain works and how music works. And we've now done many of these, and I learn something new every time. So we're really excited to have you guys here. I'm going to bring out Kent, who is the project manager from the Zuckerman. I want to also shout out Alyssa and the rest of the team at Zuckerman. Thank you guys for making this possible. So the concert is from 4 to 8. Yep. So come on out. This is Kent. Everybody say hello to Kent.
Thank you, Ryan. And we're very, very grateful to the National Jazz Museum of Harlem for having us and for hosting Music on the Brain. I'm just here to give a little bit of information of what these little cards are. Joy Reeve, who is going to be joining us, our guest speaker today, is a music educator, and so she has a test for everybody. No, I'm just kidding. We're trying out something a little bit different. We'd like to kind of get your reaction to some of the songs in real time. And so if you are interested, we are going to be putting up some slides, and you can scan. We're going to be asking questions about 3 different songs. You can scan the QR codes here as we look at these songs, and you can answer the question. If you don't feel comfortable with the technology, that's perfectly fine. This is just fun. So if you feel comfortable and you want to answer, these are anonymous surveys. If you don't, no worries. We can ask you the questions, and you can answer after we finish the songs. If there's an issue with the technology, that's my fault. I'm not very good with technology, so I'm going to go ahead and try to put it up now. Whoops. Actually, it's good work, right? Yeah. So we don't have to. No, I think we need to present the.
Oh, yes.
Excuse me. All right, let me
So that's
go here. I think that's it. There's a way to make it bigger, isn't there? Okay. So we'll try. So yes, so if you want to go ahead, you can scan. And what's going to happen is towards the end of the song, you're going to see this screen change, and there's going to be a second question. Again, if I've done it correctly. I'm not very good with technology. So if this doesn't work, blame me. But we're going to go ahead and get started. And we have a blue-green evening this evening, a blue-green lineup. I'm going to introduce TK Blue and Kelly Green. Please welcome Reeve, neuroscientist.
Oh, all right. Oh, wow. Okay, great. All right, there we go. And let me just give you the next slide. Yeah, I'm just wondering if anybody recognized that song, and if so, are you familiar with the lyrics? That's just what those questions are. So, okay, all right, there we go. Okay. All right. So, yeah, all right. So nobody knows what that song was, do they? It was very disguised, I have to say. It was very disguised. All right. So, well, what the song was, here, let's find out. It was dun da da da. How High the Moon. Yeah. So here are the lyrics. Let me just open this right up, put this in presenter view, okay? And then you can, no, I don't want that. Let's just see. Nope. Okay. Let's just go to that. Yeah, there we go. It's going to load. There it is. Those are the lyrics. All right. So, somewhere there's music, how faint the tune. Somewhere there's heaven, how high the moon. There's no moon above when love is far away too, until it comes true that you love me as I love you. Now, usually the song is played pretty upbeat. It moves, right? How many people have heard How High the Moon? Right, okay, all right. Now, but the version that we just had from TK and Kelly, let's take a look at what we had for the emotions that came along here. All right. Yeah. There it is. Yeah. So it looks like tension is the biggest one. 65 is the number. Wonder, amazed, allured, or moved came in at 45. And we have transcendence, inspired, a feeling of spirituality, thrills, chills, and sadness, teary, sorrowful. Oh, it's changing. There we go. Sadness, teary, sorrowful, or blue. All right. So, TK and Kelly, I'm wondering if you could tell us about what you were feeling when you were playing, or what emotions you were trying to convey.
Okay. Well, for me, I was feeling freedom. I was feeling I dare you. I don't really know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to do it regardless. I was also listening to Kelly. We've played together quite a bit. In fact, we've recorded together. So we've very rarely, if ever, had an opportunity to play free. We've usually played in the context of the parameters and confines of a specific song that has a harmonic sequence that we play a melody and we solo based on the harmonic sequence. But in this case, we were thrusted into this scenario of playing totally free. I didn't know what she was going to play. She didn't know what I was going to play. And I alluded to a little bit of How High the Moon, but it was very disguised. Boo-doo, boo-doo-doo. I might have played that, but it was very disguised. So, yeah, I feel that it's a very viable way of playing jazz, in the sense of abandoning a rhythm, abandoning a specific harmonic sequence, and just play free. And as musicians, we strive to perpetuate and perfect our craft. And this avenue of expression, I think, is very viable. I'm going to let Kelly say a little bit about what she felt.
Well, first of all, it's an honor and a pleasure always to play with the great TK Blue and to be here at the Jazz Museum with all of you. And so I was excited to be here. you know. So that was definitely something that I had in my mind. Also, as a pianist, and I'm accompanying TK, and we were playing off of each other. I was listening a lot, just really trying to feed off of TK's energy and see where he wanted to go, where he wanted to take it. And then, of course, there's an interplay as well. So if I only followed him and I never threw in an idea myself, it might not be a good conversation. So I tried to be a good conversation and make something interesting for TK to also hear and inspire him to play something. So I would say I was full of energy, and actually I was thinking, because I knew we were going to ask about the emotions, so I was like, wow, I am feeling different emotions throughout the whole piece. I don't think there was one that went through the whole thing. At some points it was happy, it was joyful. At some points it was sad. At some points it was full of tension. So I don't think sometimes that a song can necessarily be defined by a single emotion. And that can kind of happen also with just day-to-day situations. You know, not every situation calls for a single emotion.
That is right into emotion theory, which is actually supposed to happen after the next song. Anyways, thanks, Kelly. Awesome. We're right on track. So actually, you know what? I'll just introduce myself. So I'm Joy Reeve, and I have been a music educator in Toronto, Canada for 25 years. And after the pandemic, I thought I need to go somewhere. So I applied to do my doctorate at Teachers College, and here I am. So I have, my area of study is around emotions in music. And specifically, what I'm hoping to do with my dissertation is to create music-making situations, creative music-making situations for children where they can explore their emotions in the temporality of music. Because, you know, many emotions such as fear, well, that's not something we would necessarily evoke in music. Somebody might feel it. Now, it might be felt, that's fine. But what I'm saying is that it's not a threatening situation, which makes the emotion different in music than what it would be in everyday life. So that's what I'm hoping to do. And so that's why, you know, we decided to kind of play around and see what the audience had to say about the emotions. And so, Kelly, I completely agree with you that it's not that there's just one emotion that is going to pervade. It is going to change, and that's part of the beauty of music, right? So, yeah. Now, all right, I think that we are ready for our next tune. And again, we've got the next question. The first question is going to be the same here. This is another, oops, there it is. Just a second. There we go. So this one here, this QR code, this is going to give us a different visual of what emotions you're feeling. And then also, partway through, I'll catch it this time, partway through, I'm going to flip to another question, and you'll get to answer that too. All right, great. So let's just take a peek here. I think, yeah, you saw that I changed partway through. So let's take a look at what the audience felt. Right? And let's take a peek at what the audience perceived the artists were feeling. So it looks like, yeah, okay, it looks like many people thought that what they were feeling is the same thing that the artists were feeling. But let's find out. TK, hello. So what were you feeling during that? And also, sorry, two questions here. What were you feeling and what were you conveying to the audience if that was different?
Hello. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I felt joy. I felt uplifting, inspiring to play. I mean, we were playing. Do I tell the title of the?
Oh.
Not yet. Not yet.
Not
Okay.
yet, almost.
But anyway, yeah, I felt inspired, and I felt like swinging. It was swinging, you know. Swing for me is always a joyous endeavor. Anytime I can swing, I feel good, you know. So, I mean, that's pretty much the best thing I can describe. I'll let Kelly describe her feelings, and then we'll talk a little bit more when we get into the actual title and what the significance is.
I had fun, you know. That's it.
Happiness, joy. Yeah, and please, go ahead. Let's tell them what. Did anybody recognize the song? Ah, there we go.
That was How High the Moon Disguises Ornithology.
Woo!
That's right, ornithology.
Ding, ding.
Yeah, he got it right on the head. Now, very interesting. Does anybody know some of the motivation behind musicians taking standards, especially bebop during the bebop era, taking standards but then writing their own melodies? Does anybody know why that happened? Some of the motivation behind it? Please tell us. Well, you hit it right on the head, right on the head. You know, unfortunately in jazz, from its inception, African Americans were always the least to reap the benefits. I'll put it to you that way. There's no, it's not hidden that, for example, you take a singer like Bessie Smith in the 1920s who sold 2-3 million copies of recordings, and she died penniless. This is just a typical example. But African Americans were kind of kept out of the big money making endeavors in music, which is the royalties. Much larger than just the record sales. When you're dealing with publishing and mechanical rights and things like that, that's where a lot of the money is. And so what jazz musicians decided to do, because, you know, up until that time, the 30s, going into early 40s, you know, swing period, a lot of the music of that day that were standard jazz standards that came from Broadway shows. Many of the songs that we hear today as jazz standards have their origins in Broadway. And whenever we play those songs or record them, the person like it's Cole Porter or Gershwin or Rodgers and Hammerstein, they're the ones, their families get the royalties. In fact, I met Stokely Carmichael's son, who's married to a Jamaican lady, live up here on Central Park West, and they live in a palatial condominium, and that's just based on the royalties from one of his songs, Stardust. Just one. They live, you know, very, very well. So that just goes to show you the money that's involved. So when you take a song with that harmony, but you change the melody. It's perfectly legal. You cannot copyright harmony. You can only copyright melody. So if you take a song that has a harmonic sequence and you put your own melody, it's perfectly legal, and you can call it whatever you want to call it. And that's what jazz musicians did with How High the Moon, the ornithology. Another example, What Is This Thing Called Love? Became Hot House. Whispering, Groovin' High, thank you. Indiana, back home Indiana, Donna Lee. So that happened quite a bit. So that's just a sidebar. And I think it's very important that musicians, I think, finally got involved in the royalty aspect of music, because it's very, very important. You good?
You know what's striking me here when you were saying that, TK, is that, so with the harmonic progression of How High the Moon and ornithology are the same. And depending on the melodies, but also clearly in these two examples that you played, How High the Moon was completely disguised, right? They used so many other elements of music that were different than the original one that many of us are familiar with hearing. And same song, well, okay, same harmony, same harmonic progression, moved into another song, new tempo, into bebop. It was the same bass, same foundation, but our responses to it emotionally were completely opposite. So anyways, it's just, I'm pointing that out because it's fascinating to me that by altering some elements of music, different ways, different amounts, we can access a whole new emotion world. Emotion theory. Okay, so, because you asked for it. Okay, here we go. All right. Now, I just want to give you a little bit of background about emotion theory, because in order for me to study this is what I've had to look at. So, from in psychology, basic emotion theory here says that there are 6 separate categories, and you can see them in the center there. And the 6 basic categories of, or the 6 emotions of basic emotion model is sad, fear, anger, surprise, happy, and disgust. These other words around the side are just what they call the word families. But each one of these emotions in this area of psychology are considered discrete, separate emotions. They do not blend, okay? And then on this side here, we have a thing called dimensional emotional model, and it is based on 2 features, thus dimensional: how aroused someone is, how they are activated, and also what we call the valence, whether they have a basic feeling of pleasantness or unpleasantness. So somewhere on that grid, that's where people decide their emotions based on how they're feeling, activation, pleasant or unpleasant. And you can see here we've got the basic 4 categories there of joy, anger, sadness, and pleasure. Now, many music experiments have been done. Psychology and music experiments have been done. Most of them, I have to say, have been with classical Western music, Western classical music. And so many of them did not focus on rhythm as an element to infuse emotion. Most of it focused on tempo, on the speed, and it also focused on the mode, whether it's major or minor, what all the chords are, all the harmonies underneath, okay? That's what it focused on. But many people thought that these emotions here do not encapsulate what music offers, because here is what they call everyday emotions, right? These are things that we feel throughout the day. So somebody else came along and created a music-specific emotion model. And here's what it is. It's called GEMS, and the Geneva Emotion Music Scale. This was done extremely methodically. They started with 515 words in multiple languages, and they zeroed those down over 5 studies. That's a lot. And they came up with these 3 main categories of sublimity, vitality, and unease. Now, what I find really fascinating about this, well, you notice what's here in sublimity? That's where the majority of the emotions are for music. The wonder, transcendence, tenderness, nostalgia, or peacefulness. And again, that goes back to music not being a threatening situation. And also, while music is going on, we have the time to introspect, to reflect. So this is what they came up with, and this was the model that we were going to use tonight. I'm wondering, TK, when you're playing, do you do a lot of introspection or reflection? Is that one of your ways of expressing your emotions when you're playing?
It really depends on what I'm playing, and the context in which I'm playing. If I'm playing a concert, am I playing at a restaurant? Am I playing in duo? Like here, am I playing with a band? So I think the context and the musicians and the music is really going to determine how I'm going to feel emotionally. The things I try to stay away from, for me personally as a musician, is just making a gig to make some money. I mean, I'm blessed now in my life that I don't have to do that. But when I was younger, I had to. I had to survive, had to pay rent. So sometimes I took gigs, and I'm sure most musicians have been in that scenario, that you really didn't like or didn't feel or didn't want to do, but you had to do it to survive. So that's a different type of emotional content, because you're playing something that your heart and your soul is really not into it, but you're doing it because you have to make some money. But now I'm at a point in my life now where I can pick and choose things that I do musically, and I try to keep the scenario where I'm playing where it's an enjoyment, whether it's in this scenario, like we're doing a lecture demonstration or things like that, or in a club or concert or things like that. But I try to keep it to that level so that I do have enjoyment. And also, I try to follow some advice from my mentors, especially one in particular named Dr. Randy Weston, who's an NEA jazz master, and I played with him for many years. And he imparted on me that, as a musician, we are healers. We are guérisseurs, that's the name in French. We are healers. So it's not about making a gig and making money and becoming famous. It's about giving of yourself, bringing people together, sharing what you have, sharing that gift, uplifting the spirit of human beings, so that when you all leave, you feel better than when you got here. That's what it's about. Telling a story, telling a story, not just playing a whole bunch of notes, but telling a story. What's your story today? How do you feel today? What happened to you today? So those are the kind of things that I think about when I play, about giving and sharing my experience and trying to uplift the spirit of people, because we all have personal issues and trials and tribulations we go through every day. And so the last thing you want to do is go hear some music and be knocked over the head, You want to go hear some music and feel good. And that's what I like to be a part of.
Wow. Yeah. Being a pianist and also a vocalist, I tend to think about the lyric of a song, even if we're playing it instrumentally. So we know How High the Moon or ornithology has a happy lyric, you know. So while we were playing that, I had that feeling within the song. Whereas if I'm playing a very sad song, I sometimes even can't help but cry a little bit when I'm playing or singing because that emotion is so powerful for me. And I find that, you know, similar to what TK was expressing, that's part of our job is to show that vulnerability and to show, like, I feel the same way that maybe you might feel. So then it's like, oh, I can feel those emotions and I can express myself. This person is doing that. I feel the same way. And that's the community aspect, you know, allowing ourselves to be vulnerable through the music, whether it be instrumental or vocal. And again, each song might have different sections where you might have the different emotions coming out. But I find, even if I am in a, quote, background situation, you know, whatever song I'm playing, I'm in that emotion in that moment of the song. And if maybe one person hears it even for a second, I feel like I've done my job, you know.
Great. I'm just wondering, I've got a bunch of questions that I want to ask, but I'm just wondering if anybody in the audience has any questions for TK or Kelly regarding this. I'm just wondering, and if not, I got questions. Yeah.
Thank you. I think what TK said about like not feeling music is really interesting. It was kind of a question for you, actually. Where do you classify feeling numb when playing music?
Sorry, can you ask that last part again? Where do I
Where,
classify?
where do you put it on the, I guess, the emotion scale?
Well, in emotion theory, and specifically in performers, there are three, and in an audience, there are three separate classifications of emotions. And one of them is what is induced in the listeners, okay? What is aroused within you. The other one is, what do you perceive the musicians are giving? Thus the questions, okay? And then the last one would be, what is the emotion that the musicians are expressing? And I think I heard TK say that, you know, at some point in musicians' lives or in artists' lives, you got to do a gig, and you're singing this song whether you feel it or not, and you have to conjure up this emotion and deliver it, because that's your job. And now, you know, TK said that he can, you know, he selects what he wants to play. So isn't that fantastic that, you know, you're in a position where you can where you don't have to fake it, but it happens, right? So those are the three classifications of how music is looked at in the field. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
Question. Yeah, I wanted to ask TK, you and Kelly, when you were playing the first version of How High the Moon, and I know you were playing free. I couldn't figure none of it. So I know you guys didn't count in the tune. Are you just doing it by form? Are you doing it by form? You count, so you wind up at the end of the song at the same time?
Yeah, I'm gonna let Kelly talk a little bit about that too. I mean, for me, I wasn't really thinking of form at all. I did think a little bit about the melody, and I played it, but kind of camouflaged it. But I played it though, a little bit of it. Yeah, but it was camouflage, you know. But you know, one other thing I think is very, very important too, that we should not forget in terms of emotional content dealing with music, is that music is such a deeply spiritual art form. Because think about it, it brings us all together. We don't know each other, but yet we come together and we can share an experience listening and tapping our feet to music. It's communal. You know, in the African tradition, music is communal. There's no such thing as audience and musicians. Either you're dancing, you're singing along, you're tapping your feet, you're playing something, but you're not just sitting there. Everybody participates, I think, is very important. But music is also sacred art because it can open up the door, the portal, to another dimension. And I've had that happen to me on not many occasions, but on very select occasions. I've had situations where I was playing a song and it opened up the channel to an individual who has been deceased. And I can talk to that person. I can feel that person's spirit. I can feel their presence. I can almost smell their essence. And it's very real. It's very, very real. And I've had this happen to me. And when these things happen, you're outside of yourself. I'm playing, but I don't even feel the physical connection with my fingers. I don't feel that I'm playing or blowing. It's like I'm almost outside. These experiences are not very frequent. The situations have to be right. You have to be playing the right song with the right musicians in the right place with the right audience. It's a lot of factors that go into it. And I probably can count on maybe one hand the number of times this has happened to me in my life, but they're very profound. I mean, in one instance, it was so profound, I started crying, and I felt very embarrassed, but I couldn't play anymore because this person who I loved so much had passed away, and I could see them and feel them, and it really, emotionally, I couldn't continue. And I looked in the audience, and I see people already crying, and people saying, "No, we're okay. We feel you. It's okay." They didn't want their money back. Everybody was fine. So these are the things about music that it's not in the music books. This is not in the academies of music where they study technique and things. These are things that they're in a different level. They're not dealing. There's stuff that in music that it has nothing to do with studying and going to a music school. There's some other things happening. I don't know if you want to say anything.
Sure. As far as to address your original question about the form, so TK was sort of alluding to the melody, and I was trying to be extra sensitive to that, knowing that this was the context. So it wasn't 1,000% free, right? There was some sort of premise, like this is some sort of version of How High the Moon. Whereas if it was completely free, I would have had a little bit of a slightly different mindset. But as far as, when we started and ended, right, nobody counted off, but I knew that he was going to start. I mean, there's only 2 of us. Say there was 5 of us, then it might have been a little more complicated. Like, who's going to start? We might have all just sat there in silence until somebody broke the ice, just like a conversation, because music is a conversation, just with notes and sounds. And then the ending, as far as that was concerned, and everything in between, is just about being sensitive and being in touch with that side rather than just trying to play anything at all to fill the space. It was what's appropriate in this moment and how can I contribute to this moment. I always say music is making decisions, a series of decision making the whole time, right? To play, to not play, what to play, how to play it. Right? And so I try to, think about what the other musicians are saying and how can I fit into the conversation appropriately and maybe even add to the conversation. And then when it's over, there was that little kind of sustained thing, and then I kind of ended up with a little line, and then I saw that he was doing this kind of ostinato, which means a short repeated pattern, right? And then I was like, oh, okay, he's kind of getting quieter, and then it kind of just came to a close. But again, we know each other and we've played together. And so had that not been the case, it might not have ended that way, Yeah.
So this is this is what I want to study, right? But with children. And wanting to create spaces for children to create music. And what TK brought up about the African tradition being participatory, right? And there's no separation. This is one of the things that we have now in many situations, we have a presentational situation where there's a separation between audience and performers. And so in order to give people the opportunity to explore their own emotions, this is why music education can move in that direction. And, you know, I've worked with children for 25 years, but I've had many situations. So we were talking about the transcendence, right? And TK talked about it, about a whole new level of transcendence. But in there, the thrills and chills, you know, when you get goosebumps, when you hear something, because it touches you so deeply, you know, children feel it too. And so that's what, that's where it is. Now, one of the things that happens often when audiences are watching musicians or any kind of an artist is our mirror neurons, which we learn from other people. This is how we look at somebody and we know whether they're tired, bored, sad, happy, elated. All of those things often are just come from what we see in performers. So for our third song, what we're going to do is block the musicians. So, and then and here it comes out. So I'm going to have I'm going to start off with the same question again. What does this music make you feel? And then, partway through, the question will be asked, what would you name this song? Now, this is a TK original, and so we're inviting you to come up with some possibilities, and at the end, we'll see what possibilities you came up with, because the screen will be blocked, and we'll go from there. So, looking forward to it.
No, it's first time.
No, we're not supposed to see the musicians. Right. So you will, like on your phone, you can still do the thing. Survey, that's what it is. And the thing. And then at the end, we'll take a look at the titles that people came up with. Okay? Okay, here's the hard part. Now we have to hold that in our minds while we just take a look at these titles that came up. They're great. So we have, just in case, I'll just read them out to you. So we have Song of Our Ancestors, Baby Elephant's Day in the Jazz Club, When Tomorrow Comes, Detective's Break Time, Sunrise, Waiting, Mr. Smarty Pants, and Sunday. All right. Now, I know it's pretty funny, eh? Okay, I've just changed this now so you can vote for your, I think there's 2 votes you have there to use. Let's see what happens. I know, it's great. But I just have to say, you had lots of likes in the performances. There were lots of thumbs up going through. All right. Let's see. Do I have to? Yeah, I think I do. Okay, let's just see. 3, 2, 1. Let's see. All right. When Tomorrow Comes ties with Sunday. All right, but now the reveal. TK, please tell us about this song.
Yes, that song is an original of mine. It's actually from a suite that was written in the dedication to the book 12 Years a Slave, Solomon Northup. And this was done way before the movie was made. I read the book when I was in college, and then I got a grant around 2005 to do some music depicting early African-American presence in the Hudson Valley. And I thought about Solomon Northup because he lived in Saratoga Springs. So I did a whole suite chronicling his life. And this particular song was called Valley of Paradise because he lived in the Hudson Valley. And he was a musician, and he had a beautiful family. He had a great life. He was a free man during the time of slavery. And, from the movie, I don't know if anybody had seen it, but, he was abducted illegally, and he spent 12 years on a plantation as a slave before he was liberated. So that was so anyway, I like the titles, especially the Baby Elephant's Day in the Jazz Club. That's pretty slick, yeah. And When Tomorrow Comes, okay, no, very, very good. And it's interesting, when they started making the movie 12 Years a Slave, a lot of my friends said, man, we got to get some of your music in the film, and then you could move to Hollywood and become famous. But it didn't happen.
Sorry, just so we can hear. So TK, I'm wondering also if I gave the scientific reason for bringing out the barrier, but this is also something that has a history of music. So I'm just wondering, TK, if you could tell us a little bit. Yeah. Oh, the barrier.
Right. What about the
blind auditions?
Uh-huh.
The history.
Yeah, but I'm going to show what you're asking me.
Oh, okay. Well, okay, so I understood when we were talking before.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I should turn off my mic. When we
Oh, from playing behind the barrier. Yeah,
blind auditions.
Yeah, well, they use this is used typically, especially when you have state or public funded bands. Like the Philharmonic, for example, is when they have auditions, it has to be blind because there can be no discrimination against sex, age, or race. So always the auditions are done behind a barrier. And there was an instance, in fact, when there was an opening for a lead clarinet, and they chose an African American, and they were not happy with the choice. So they made him redo it, and they still picked him. So after that, they had to let him have the position. But yeah, the blind barriers is definitely important. especially if you want to make an even playing field, you know. So I think we're about running out of time. So why don't we end? Please give a big hand to Joy Reeve. She's been doing a fabulous job with all of the questions and emotions and things in the chart. It's been fantastic. Please give a big hand for Kelly Green. You know, and also I know you guys are. I know we may or may not have any dinosaurs, but this is your last chance to get a recording. And this one has Kelly and I are on this record. It's a record I did dedicated to Dr. Randy Weston, and we're playing 2 duets on here. And Kelly also has a new recording called Seams, and this just came out. And also she and her husband have a performance space called Green Soul Studios. So check them out. And let's close out with some music. Let's have, since Joy did so much hard work in putting this together, let's give her an opportunity to sing. Y'all want to hear Joy sing something? All right.
I don't have to announce the song, I'm sure. Okay, 1, 2, 1, 2. If you ever plan to motor west, travel my way, take the highway, that's the best. Get your kicks on Route 66. Well, it winds from Chicago to LA, more than 2,000 miles all the way. Get your kicks on Route 66. You go through St. Louis, Joplin, Missouri, Oklahoma City looks mighty pretty. You'll see Amarillo, Gallup, New Mexico, Flagstaff, Arizona. Don't forget Monona, Kingman, Barstow, San Bernardino. Won't you get hip to this timely tip? When you make that California trip, get your kicks on Route 66.